the idea for today's video stemmed from this previous color psychology video. I've had a few comments asking if I'd be interested in doing like build challenges. People want to see me do, some builds in some different styles to my usual style. So we're moving over today to this little build challenge section. And because I have to be extra everything, I'm not doing just one challenge, but I'm doing 4. Those 4 things are going to be, number 1, a house with a face, which is just like random out of nowhere, I know. Number 2 is a house all in one color. Number 3 is going to be that the emotion equals that color. And number 4 is in a style that I haven't built in before. So I've got my work cut out for me today, but I've seen in a lot of build challenges, people use that like random spinny wheel thing, and I just wanted a moment of using that spinny wheel. So I have my spinny wheel up here with my options for the colors. We're going to pick the color. As you can see, it's very random. It's purely randomized. Ruby. Well, that's just perfect. That goes exactly with what I had planned. Like, who would have imagined? So we're just basically going to call that red. So I'm going to start off, and this build's going to be the exterior. Because the exterior is sort of like 4 challenges. I am going to do the interior as well. That's going to be in a second video, because the interior is just going to be sort of like 1 challenge, just all in the color red. But this exterior is the 4-parter craziness. So I'm here and I'm starting with the face. And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this to begin with. So I try a few different things throughout this video, and there's lots of camera movement back and forth so that I can see how it looks from the front. But my initial thought was, if I make this sort of like puffed up looking build, it was almost like emoji face sort of style. And I thought, if it looks like it's all puffed up in anger, I don't end up sticking with that, but that's sort of where my head was first going with this. But yeah, I chose anger for the color red. Red can mean a lot of things. We were talking about in my last video how it's often causes hunger in people, but how you make a face look hungry is beyond me. So we've gone for angry because it was maybe easier. If I do, the plan is I'm going to do more of these, and this is going to be a little series on this lot here. And at the end, we end up with a bunch of different colored houses, sort of Pixar style looking. This is giving me sort of Inside Out meets Encanto style in what I'm doing here, and I just thought it was so fun doing this. So I want to do more. Maybe I'll actually use the color spinner wheel in a less tongue-in-cheek way and actually do it to pick what emotion the color represents. But in this one, I just went for anger because I didn't really know what I was doing with this one, so I needed just that little bit of control. But I'm playing around with the reds. There's a lot of reds in this game. I've gone with some like rosy looking cheeks, sort of angry rosy cheeks is what I was going with this. And I was playing around here with these edge pieces. I wanted some light to get in. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do inside at this point. I also wasn't sure what style I was doing at this point. All I knew is that I wanted to make it, the challenge is something that doesn't look like my usual style. And it ends up as we go along sort of becoming, it was giving me sort of Spanish vibes and also like Latin American vibes, which is where like this sort of Encanto feels comes from. And I don't know if that was sort of natural because that kind of style is all quite colourful and that lends itself to doing quite colourful houses, but that's where it went, and it looks really really fun at the end of it. But I'm just doing a little like terrace here at the top. As you can see, I've rounded out these roofs. I thought it was sort of giving me puffed up shoulders. I was trying to do like puffed up shoulders around the angry face. And then I'm using these also sort of rounded pieces that I had a little moment that I played around with as if they were sort of like hands gripping onto the earth. And I even at one point did a little bit of terrain paint to look like it had sort of scratched its hands through the earth. But I didn't stick with that because I decided that it was looking a bit too big by the end of it. But yeah, playing around with all the ideas here. So I've now used a roof piece to make a mouth. I wanted a bit more dimension in this. I wanted it to come forward a bit more. And those windows with the sort of triangular shape, those are from the Organics CC pack, I believe. But yeah, this is all about sort of finding the vibe, finding the colors. At this point, I hadn't really decided still what the vibe was going to be. I'm just trying to make something that looks like a face. So my step here was make the face, then figure out how the style works around it. I've put some teeth in with these corbel things. It was all sort of like really fun trying to get things to come together and see what details I could do to make this look more like a face. So yeah, it's got some like gap teeth here. But I changed the doors around a little bit. I wasn't quite sure. This mouth thing took me a few iterations to figure out how to make it look like a mouth. But I was trying to work with the colors here. Obviously, you know, if you like draw a mouth, it's sort of pink around the outside and then darker in the middle. And then I also sort of wanted a tongue in there. And this door here, but you look through to the inside, was sort of giving me tongue, even though I know it's light and there's no light part at the back of your mouth. But once it's darker in the interior, I think that effect looks pretty cool. Putting some bottom teeth here as well. But yeah, just playing around with these pieces. And as I said, a lot of zooming out. Here I tried with putting in some pupils, but yeah, that was a no. That was a no. And then I used these big wall hunk things and some plates, and these stayed on the windows for longer than I'm happy with because they look ridiculous. They look like googly eyes. It was giving tacky, and they stayed on there for way longer than I was happy with, but those also just get yeeted as well. Like, no, it looks ridiculous. What I end up going with I thought was quite clever in the end, but we'll see that later on. But yeah, this is still looking all puffy, and it doesn't end up like this. I chop the sides off. I'm like, little rosy cheeks. I tried some little more rosy cheeks here. I'm trying to get detail in. I didn't want this to look too simple. I wanted it to be a detailed, interesting build. I was thinking about, you know, like how detailed the house in Kanto is. And I know that's not a house with a face, but it is a very like animated house. And I was sort of thinking, and that's probably why the style ended up being a bit like that as well. But once I got these little window pieces out, I thought, you know what, I'm kind of seeing a guy with a mustache. And I've put some leaves on the head there, a little tuft of hair, like some balding, angry man. But yeah, and then putting the grass in these little plant boxes too was giving me mustache. So I kept that and I enjoyed that. So I'm just filling that in now. I do fill in the plants more. I was still at this point sort of doing like, what's this going to look like if I put plants in here? So I just did one in each. Do I like it? Do I not? That's why I'm moving things around quite a lot. There's a lot of testing things out in this build. But at this point, I'd sort of got the shape, sort of got the face. I was like, yeah, I'm happy with this. So I want to make the build a bit more interesting, a bit more detailed, a bit layered, a bit more textured. So I'm putting on these roof trim pieces. I've hacked a wall off at the side to create some depth at the side of the face. And I'm playing around with some colors too. I know it's like red build, but I wanted it to read nicely and have different shades of red and things. I used some of those. I don't even know what these are called because I never used them. But these things that like beams? I don't know. I never use those. I forget that they're a feature, to be honest. But getting some pillars in, again, texture, getting the texture in, seeing what this looks like. And the beams, I think, sorry, not the beams, the columns are by Harry, the Coastal Collection. I use a few things from the Coastal Collection in this. I got that different window out from the same set, but lowering the brow here really made it look more angry. And then I found this other roof piece, which is again another like CC piece. I can't remember which one it's from. Apologies. But I used the tool mod to rotate this 180 degrees and then elevated it up a bit. And then this was giving me like the furrowed brow, the like angry furrowed brow, along with that curved roof for the eyebrows. So this was like really coming along at this point. Yeah, the eyes finally, they're gone. Get rid. That was awful. Put in some more rosy cheeks. It's sort of like angry but cute. I wanted it to be angry but cute. I didn't want it to be scary or anything like that. I wanted it to be cute. Disney Pixar is how I wanted this vibe to be. But you see, when I realized it was evening, was so like fiery, really added to the whole angry thing. So I really enjoyed that time of day with this. But here I'm still, as you can see, I'm contemplating with these sort of puffy shoulder bits. Do I like them? Do I not? And I realized, you know what? For simplicity, I'm going to get rid of them. Because I felt like if I put the effort into this central bit, I could detail that a lot more than if I made the big sort of shoulder parts and was a bit too ambitious with the build. So I just took these bits that I was using as sort of like representing fingers, put them at the side here to be more like, I guess like storage bins or something like that. Just to implay a little bit of like shoulder on the build, as if it's sort of like rising out of the ground and that's the head or something. I did make them too big at this point. which I take them down again later. But I'm just going around now with these, I believe these are from the Coastal CC pack as well, to just put on these wall trims. And really, yeah, give the build some depth, some definition, some different surfaces, some different planes for light to hit, because it was just looking very flat. So at this point in the build, I'm happy with the face. I'm trying to make it look less flat. I want it to look like an actual building. How am I going to do that? Where is the style going to go? And it was giving me this, like I said, this Encanto, Latin America, Spanish sort of vibe, this like angry Spanish man with a mustache. So I've gone around and I've put all of these wall trims on, and I was really liking how this was looking. Obviously there's still a lot to do, but I wanted to sort of connect this roof terrace thing at this point, and I wanted to do it around the outside rather than the interior. Sort of like you go out into the garden, you come around, you go up the staircase, and you get to this nice terrace. So that's what I'm doing here. And this was the part where I really got to start playing around with setting this in the environment. I've said before, I know this lot's empty. It's also in Newcrest, and like I said, I didn't know what style I was going to do this, but as I went on in, it became more of this sort of like Mediterranean style. I realized Newcrest was really stupid. It was really stupid to put this in Newcrest. And as I go along and do other builds in this, I will probably at the end up moving it to a different world. But I do like how Newcrest doesn't have too much clutter around the edge, so I can take some good like cinematic going around the build. But yeah, I realized that Newcrest is a bit weird to have this very summery Mediterranean build. Yeah, I've gone with the walls here. This is something very different to what I'd normally done, to my normal build style. Doing this sort of square wall that sort of like rises up, and it was I didn't use references for this, so I'm making it all up, but I feel like I've seen things like that in, you know, like Spain, Portugal. I've seen things like Latin American walls and things like that. Continuing this wall around the back, I wanted it to be, well, I've called this, no, I haven't called it that yet. It's still called Twin Oracle Point, but at some point I do call this Emotional Plaza. And I want this to sort of look like a plaza at the end, where there's not just the builds, but there's also like wall details and things, and that's what I've started with here. I want this wall to almost go around the perimeter connecting the builds in this style. Now, I don't know if all of the builds are going to be this same style. I really don't know. I haven't decided yet. Or whether I'm going to do each build a different style. I don't want it to look too stupid at the end. But I also want to, you know, have the challenge element. So we'll see what I decide to do. But yeah, just continuing the style around the back. Get some archways in. And just have this like garden area. I wanted this to feel as if it was built into a town, even though the town doesn't exist yet. The idea is that it's meant to sort of look like a bit of a town of inside out houses at the end. A town of Pixar emotion houses that just spend all day bickering with each other and having lots of mischief. I just thought that was a really fun concept, and that's what I'm going with. Wasn't quite sure what to do with this wall here. Tried a few things. A lot of this was me trying things, seeing what it looked like, realizing it was a little bit wrong, trying something else and being like, yeah, that looks better, that looks right. So I've done this, and now I've filled in this sort of perimeter around the house. And I keep moving the camera back to the front here to see what it's looked like. How is it reading? I didn't want to do anything around the sort of exterior of the house, garden-wise or anything, that when you then looked at the front sort of took away from the face. So I was making sure that all the shapes and everything read quite nicely with how the house looked from the front as well. That was important to me. But I'm putting in some gates here. I think I've seen stuff like this in Spain, where there's like gates in archways, and they don't have these like white picket fence gardens where it's all, you know, this sort of, in these towns, the gardens sort of attached to more like communal pathways and things like that, and they're gated, and I wanted to do something like that. And again, get some detail out with these wall pillars. Like I said, I've split this into a single build because this exterior itself is just sort of like, I think it needed its own video. Normally I do an exterior and then an interior, but there was a lot that went into this and a lot of decision making and things that I wanted this to be its own separate thing because it's very different. I think it deserved its own video. And I've, as you can see, I've not even started working on the inside yet. I had I had no idea what I was doing with the inside. This style was so different to what I'm used to. But I'm just trying to add a little bit more. I got to this point where I was like, you know what? I'm loving the shape. I'm loving the scaffolding of this build, of how it is. But it's looking a bit plain. So I wanted to add a few more things to it. I also didn't like how these teeth were looking. So I tried with the same roof trim that I've used around the actual walls, but in white. Scaled it up a bit. It's I don't keep that. Like looking back, I kept it a little longer than I should have. It was looking like it had horse teeth. Really, this is like giving herbivore, and an angry herbivore. Like the horse is not happy with you. It's gonna charge you. That's what it's giving. But yeah, I changed that back again to make it look a bit more like it has the gap in the teeth. But this is where I used candles on the walls inside to make the eyes, and I just really thought that was I was so proud of myself for that idea. I think that looks really great because it's like fire to an angry and candles with this like Latin American style, like there's candle. Well, I mean, I'm not the most educated person on Latin America, but I feel like there's lots of candles in Encanto, right? Like that's a thing. I don't know. Oh, I hope I'm not insulting anyone. But yeah, I'm changing some. It was looking a bit too red. I wanted to use some more muted reds. Obviously, this is a red build, but I don't want it to be this bright red. And I also, with these windows, had no idea what I was doing, so I got them all out and sort of pre-planned what I was going to do because this was a mess. The wall had like 20 different windows on it while I was figuring out how the hell do I do this? How do I make this style with these windows that I don't really use in any of my builds? And also in red, how do I do this? But I like how it turned out. It's really cute. I like the variation in the windows. Now I'm putting on some of these wall chunks. I know that these are in these like Mediterranean sort of, is it plaster? I know it's called like stucco style. I'm not quite sure, and I have no idea what these wall chunk things have in actual like structure. But I just knew that they looked right, so that's why I put them on. But I'd love to know what they actually do for a build. Like, do they stabilize it, or are they connected to like beams, or they must have some kind of structural function, right? No idea what it is, but I like them. They look cute. So I'm now going around adding a few more details. This was coming together. I liked how it looked, but I just wanted to do that extra little bit. I'm adding some like wall cracks in the paint and things to make this just look like a lot more realistic, more worn, because this is like a face with character. I didn't want it to be like the character of the actual house to be this angry face, but then the rest of it looked too pristine. I was like, if this is an angry house, like, listening to what I'm saying now, like, what the hell are I talking about? But having an angry house like this would have cracks in it, like it's angry, it's got cracked skin, and like I don't know. That's what I was going for. Now I did allow myself to use green. I needed foliage in this, and there's obviously like foliage is you're sort of stuck with green. It's also the complementary color to red. So I think in my builds I'm going to allow a little bit of, when I'm doing this color challenge, a little bit of complementary color, because like I don't want it to look stupid at the end. I still want it to look good. Like the challenge is that I make something that looks good, not something that's just a challenge and then at the end looks really stupid. Like, so I'm allowing myself to use a bit of this complementary color just with the foliage, because I don't have many options with the foliage, and it was adding something. It was really adding to the character of the house. So yes, I allowed myself that. And I'm going to work on this terrace. This last little bit working on this terrace, I wanted a bit of like stonework and things. Again, so the stones aren't red, but I'm allowing neutral colors. I'm allowing like white, black, greys, very neutral, like earthy colors, because it's just, I can't do everything in red and have it look half decent. It's just going to look stupid. And I wanted it to look good. I wanted to do a challenge, but it also looked good. So again, pinks are like, you know, red, but with just a lot lighter. and getting in these Mediterranean looking plants, which was fun too, because I don't think I've ever used cactuses and things before. So it was fun doing something different to what I would normally do. Table, sunshade. I like the idea of coming up here and it's just like this garden. It's not super like full of foliage or anything like that, but it's just very peaceful. No, actually, no, it's not peaceful. It's angry. This is the angry build. Ignore me. I mean, I could have maybe tried to make... How would you make the decor look angry? I don't know. The anger's just the face, and then the rest of it's just red. We're finishing off with a few lights here. And I really love how this turned out. It's just giving me such Disney vibes. Pan around here. And I have done the interior at this point, but I'm going to leave that for next time, for its own little challenge. See how it looks in the daytime changing and everything. Yeah, this was really fun. Really, really fun. But thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one, which will be the interior.